So let's begin with this Chase webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be talking about MBA options in India. And the way that we've structured this webinar is that for about the first 15 to 20 minutes, I'll be talking about my experiences. I'll be talking about some general tips and advices that I feel are very relevant to an MBA aspirant. Uh, in today's day and age. And after that, we'll just open up for questions and we can take up specific problems that you guys might be facing. And I'll do my best to answer them and give you some next steps that you can follow. Right. So let's begin. I'd just like to give you a small introduction about myself. I'm currently working at Hotstar. I graduated from IIM Calcutta in 2018, and previously I also was a data analyst. I just missed that line out here, but by education I'm also an engineer, and I graduated in 2014. So I had about like a year and a half of work experience pre MBA, and like I said, now I'm working with Hotstar. As far as my entrance exam journey is concerned, you can see those figures out here. In 2013, my CAT score was around like 70, 72 or something like that. In 2014, it went up to 85. And in 2015 is where I actually probably did quite okay. I got 99.7. And subsequently, like the sort of converts that I had in that year were also quite decent. You can see those colleges. IIM Calcutta and Lucknow, Shillong, IIM Indore, FMS, MDI, XLRI, MICA, and MIMS. That was 1 year where I just tweaked my strategy a little bit, not just with regards to the CAT prep, but also with regards to MBA in general. And we'll be sort of like covering all of those tweaks and strategies that you can use for your own MBA aspirations. So moving on, let's just like set the agenda for the webinar. I firstly want to take you guys through something that's extremely important, and that is setting expectations. A lot of us, and I'm guilty of the same, right? Like in the last few years of my graduation, I was obviously faced with this question of what's next. And at the time, doing an MBA seemed like a very logical logical next step on the surface. But what were the internal motivations? What was the end goal of doing an MBA? Was probably not very clear to me the first time around. So I just like to like talk about that for a few minutes, and then obviously we'll move on to the chunk of the presentation, which is the test prep strategy. And moving on, we'll talk about colleges, and then we'll just sort of open it up to questions that we can discuss more. Right. So the first thing that I would urge everyone to think about is, why do you want to do an MBA? Right. It's a very simple question. It's a very cliched question, but I think it's the most important one of them all, because an MBA aspirant's journey is typically about, like in the best case scenario, it's about 10 months long, where you realize that you want to do an MBA to the point where you would start filling out entrance forms, to the point where you would also be preparing for all of these entrance exams, and then you take those exams, then you're shortlisted for interviews, and you give those interviews, and then you get an admit or you don't get an admit. So that entire end-to-end journey, in the best case scenario, is about a year long. And to ensure that your level of dedication or your level of seriousness is sustained throughout those 10 months or about a year, you need to have your motivations very clear about what is it that you want to do, or how is it that your life is going to change because of an MBA. Now I'm going to give you some examples as to why people generally take on MBA as a post graduation option. Obviously, one of the first ones is an increased job security, and that is reasonably true in my experience. If the college that you go to has it is of a certain repute, you can be sure that if not anything else, you will get a job at the end of those 2 years. Uh, the second reason, popular reason at least, seems to be that people want to change career fields. Typically, after a undergraduation course like a engineering or a BCom or some such courses, there are very set career options that you get. Increasingly, I think it's changing at the engineering level as well, where you have some marketing companies that directly hire from engineering colleges, but that is very less in number. You still get majority of the jobs related to data sciences, related to IT, related to say even support functions in a bank. But all of those, right, they typically have similar challenges and similar problems where you're not able to see the impact of your work. You're not able to see what the decisions were behind the scenes that resulted in project A being green-lighted versus project B. And that typically also then leads to a lot of frustration in a lot of people's minds. And then they think that, okay, like doing an MBA is a very simple or logical option. So that was the second reason to switch jobs or to switch careers. And the third reason, obviously, as we all know, and we're all guilty of giving it some weightage at some point in time, is the increment in pay packages that you can reasonably expect once you get into an MBA college. Now, whether your motivation is the former, which is you just want to switch careers, or whether it is an increment in pay packages that you're looking for. I think it will be really important for you to be very clear about what is it that you want from those 2 years of the preschool experience, and how is it going to change your life from point A to point B, right? A pro tip here would be that you should really keep a track of how your motivations are changing over time. You should speak to people who've recently completed their MBAs and just try and understand how MBA affected their lives. That's also going to be some important data points that you can keep in mind and make an informed decision of whether or not you want to do it. Um, Now, moving on to the more important topics. As far as test prep is concerned, and there are a lot of MBA entrance exams that are there in India. Right, CAT is probably the most popular one because it sort of gives you entries to the IIMs. But there are other exams like the XAT, the NMAT, the MyCat. IFT also has its dedicated exam, and all of those things, right? Now, it would be very important for you guys to remember that all of your prep, all of your practice should be in line with the sort of exam that you hope to take. Now, why am I saying that? Because just think about this, right? Like, if you want to play the piano, you will not be getting anything out of, say, doing finger exercises or doing any warm up exercises as such. That is just has a very 1%, 2% incremental difference in your practice. The best way to get better at playing the piano is to sit in front of a piano and keep playing. And that's why I've used this image. This quote is attributed to Jose Mourinho, who's a Chelsea manager, but that's not relevant. My point is that if you want to crack CAT, You need to sit in front of a computer in a timed environment where you're solving a mixed bag of questions. Because those three things are characteristics of the CAT exam, right? You will be sitting in front of a computer with 3 hours. You'll have 180 questions, which will be a mixed bag of topics and of sections like verbal, quant, and AILR. And lastly, obviously, you will have to make on the fly decisions. If you don't remember something, if you're not very confident about a question, moving on to the next one, etc. Those are decisions that you will need to make. Now, unfortunately, what happens is because of the Indian way of studying, we've always been told that okay, if you want to prepare for something, you need to have a textbook in front of you, and then you have to have a notebook in front of you, and then you need to go from questions 1 to questions 10 in a very orderly fashion, and then just tick all of those questions once they are done, and then pat yourself on the back and say that okay, I've studied for the day. While that worked at a different level uh, for exams such as the CAT or even the XAT or the other computerized exams which are timed, because of the competition element, because there's so many people who are doing the same things that you're doing, you will need to have that edge. And the best way to have that edge is to practice more of these CAT exams or the mock CATs or simulated CATs, as they say, as you can. That has to be like, say, 70 to 80% of your exam of your exam preparation. Now, I'm saying this because there's a lot that you can do after you've taken a simulated CAT. Typically, uh, a lot of test service providers give you detailed analysis of where you spent your time and how much marks you got out of the time that you spent. That really helps you in deciding which sort of questions you should attempt first and which sort of questions you should just leave out. Now, guys, I'm an engineering student, right? So I have by design and by fate, I've done mathematics for a very long period in my life. And when I was faced with such questions in quant, I immediately started thinking that was this is right up my alley. This is my strength. I should be able to solve this. And it more often than not started becoming an ego issue where I was like, oh, I will solve this question. This is a simple time distance speed question. I will be able to solve it. There's nothing so big about it. I should do it in my class 10th and 11th. I can do it now. And all those thoughts start creeping into your mind. Now, the best way to combat this is to, like I said, that's the pro tip, is to keep a track of the marks that you're getting per minute by a topic or by a subject area. Now, to put this very simply, if I have two topics, one is numbers and one is speed, distance, and time, I hate numbers and I like speed, distance, and time, but the data is showing me that I get 2.5 marks per minute in a numbers question versus I get 1.4 marks per minute in a time, distance, speed question. Whenever I have a choice between these two, I should be smart about it. I should sort of be, you know, attempt the numbers question over the time, speed, and distance question. Because, as you would always already know, sectional time is also limited, and you need to maximize the sort of marks and the sort of positive scores that you get. And the only way that you can do it is by examining where your strengths are and not taking a subjective call of, okay, I know time, distance, and speed is my strength because I like it, but looking at data that is telling you that no, numbers is actually your strength. And time, distance, and speed is not your strength. You're wasting too much of time there and you're not getting enough marks. So, those are things that you should sort of keep in mind while approaching your practice, while approaching your prep. You need to make sure that out of the three things that I mentioned before, the computerized environment, mixed bag of questions, and a timed situation. Out of these three, you need to make sure that at least two, or at the bare minimum, at least one, is satisfied whenever you are sitting down to prepare for your exams. Now, on a personal note, when I was preparing for CAT 2015, I took about 75 mock CAT exams. These were by various classes, and we can sort of get to that later. But I just got better at making decisions the third time around when I attempted the CAT. So that's something you should keep in mind. And yes, this is another important piece, right? Because there are thousands of shortcuts, there are thousands of formulas that you can remember for any question, for any topic. But at the end of it all, it's going to be your own decision making strategy that works or that doesn't. Because, friends, you'll have to remember that all of these 10 months or about a year of preparation and strategizing will sort of culminate to that one day where you would need to make good decisions. And in fact, if you just extrapolate, right, in post MBA life is full of managerial jobs where taking decision on the basis of data is like the day-to-day situation for everybody at work. That's what these exams will test you on, right? How do you make decisions in a limited time with the data that you have? That is what the exams are testing you on. Nobody is going to ask you what is the remainder of 2 raised to 75 divided by 5 couple of years down the line. That's not going to happen, right? But what people would want to know is that if you are faced with this problem, with such a problem, do you attempt it? Do you leave it and do something that is more in your subject strengths? Or what do you do? Like, do you get emotional? Do you let ego play a part in making your decisions? That is something that these exams test you. And it's something that you should remember really well. So even if you're not someone from an engineering background, even if you've not really studied mathematics for those many years, it doesn't matter. What you need to do is make good decisions. And here are some of the pro tips that I realized over the years. A lot of times we just, again, and this is the Indian educational system that has made us think this way, we tend to go from question to the answer. What we can also do in some cases is go from the answer to the question. Basically, use things like uh, substitution, use things like method of eliminations to sort of figure out which of these options are going to be the right one, and that can also save you time, get you more marks, and then give you an opportunity to crack some of the other questions. Now, here's another pro tip, and this is something that I just know. I just found it very amusing. Obviously, we all know that there are four options to every CAT question. But I'd like to challenge that and just urge you to remember that there are 5 options to every CAT question. Obviously, A, B, C, and D are the options that you see on the screen. But the 5th option is to skip that question and revisit it later, or to not visit it at all. And that is something that you will only realize by making those sort of decisions in a simulated CAT environment or a simulated test environment. Um, if you ask me, the way that you prepare for CAT and the way that you prepare for XAT are very different. If I remember it correctly, XAT was, at the time at least when I took it, was a pen and paper exam. So therefore, in that sense of the word, if you are preparing for a pen and paper exam, your preparation strategy looks very different. Because naturally, right, when you look at the first sheet of your question paper, you can see 10 questions at a glance. And you can quickly scan and figure out which is the question that you can attempt first. Instead, when you look at a CAT, which is one question at a time sort of a situation, or even a GMAT, which is like another ball game altogether, you will have to sort of make that decision in that moment of whether or not you need to attempt this question. That is the first step. The next step is obviously to remember the formulas, remember the shortcuts, and then use them to sort of solve these questions in the best way possible. Right? So that's the 5th option to every question. at least in CAT or any computer uh, aided examination, is that you can skip the question and come to a thing. Uh, Lastly, there's one thing that I would like to leave you guys with, is that there is no such thing as just one MBA college or like one dream MBA college that one needs to target or one needs to aim for. I think that notion is again built in because of the way we perceive things in our society, and our upbringing is has also led to that. So obviously, I will hold myself guilty to doing this as well. Like I had a certain set of colleges uh, that I just wanted to get into. In fact, like I was very determined to get into IIM Ahmedabad because arguably in many conversations we get to know that it is the best B school in India. But I would really like to challenge that notion. It is if you have a certain goal that you want to get from A to B, and if a college is going to help you do that, then that college is the best MBA college in India for you. We can sit here all day long and evaluate every single college and their pros and cons. And trust me, it's a never ending situation. But one thing that we need to remember is that if you have the sort of confidence in your own abilities, if you are willing to work hard, then post MBA is going to be a breeze for you. What happens typically, and this is coming out of experience of a lot of people that I have observed, is that people just switch off once they have gotten admissions or once they have gotten admitted to these supposedly good colleges, right? And then they just start thinking that okay, life is set now and I don't have to do anything. The truth is that post MBA life is not a cakewalk. That's why you will have to really show what your caliber is, what your decision making strategy is, and how that adds value to businesses. That is where your worth as an individual is going to be measured. And trust me, just after a couple of years, or even like say in some uh, colleges, after a couple of months, nobody is going to care which college you came from. So while I understand that it's great for people to have these motivations, to have these ambitions and these targets, saying that okay, no, these are the colleges that I want to get into, I would really ask you and urge you to figure out what is the MBA college for you that gets you from the place that you are at currently to the place that you want to get in your future. Because otherwise, it's just going to be a very helter skelter sort of a situation. You will probably have to end up taking a lot of stress because it becomes a make or break situation. And I don't think we need to make it. A pro tip here would be you should, if you're really keen on knowing what an MBA college is, you should talk to students who are currently studying there, and you should talk to alums who've recently passed out from that college. And you should really ask them questions like, okay, how has this MBA college helped you get where you are currently? Now, that answer could be something as simple as, okay, it just gave me this on campus placement, or it really improved me as an individual, or it gave me access to learning all of these newer things that I wouldn't have otherwise. But these answers are something that you need to weigh on your internal frameworks or decision making capabilities and figure out if that college is the one college for you or not. Right? So that was the pro tip for this piece, and I'll just like take you back and tell you about my journey a little bit more before we break into questions. Um, so, like I said, right, I graduated as a computer engineer in 2014. So naturally, in the year 2013, I was taking the CAT for the first time while I was studying. I graduated in the year 2014, so that was July of 2014, somewhere in the middle. And then 2014 of December was the first time I took it while I was working. And then 2015 was a similar situation. The thing that I would really want to highlight is that I was probably prepared on an academic level in the 2013 attempt, or maybe in the 2014 attempt itself. Like, I knew all of the concepts, I knew all of the formulas, I knew all of the shortcuts, etc., etc., etc. But I would say in 2015 is where my decision making got a lot better. I started realizing that these are the questions that I should not attempt, or these are the questions that I should attempt in the first go. And like I said, that only happened because I ditched all of the textbook uh, oriented practice, all of the just memorizing of formulas, and like maintaining a sheet of the shortcuts and revising from notes and all of those like traditional ways of learning that we've been taught over the years. I really abandoned them for my 2015 attempt, and that's when I just kept on taking as many mock tests as I could. And I think that's what sort of really took me from a 70 percentiler to a 99.87 percentiler. Another thing that I would like to talk about is, like I said, I was studying and I was preparing myself uh, because my key motivation was, like I really want to go to IIM Ahmedabad. But a fun thing that you guys should know is that I did not even get a call from IIM Ahmedabad for my interviews. Now, at that point, I did rank a lot on Pagal Guy and a couple of other forums, but I just sort of accepted it because there are a lot of these colleges who would have different selection criteria that would be out of your hands by this time. Your class 10th score, your class 12th score, your undergraduation score, these are not something that you can fix right now. So you shouldn't worry too much about it, and should just make sure that whichever exam it is that you're taking, uh, your like I said, your prep strategy matches that, and the sort of MBA colleges that you are targeting, they will really take you from point A to point B. When you know what point A is, probably the situation you're in currently, and point B is a place that you want to get to in your career or in your near future. So that was my experience, and like I said, uh, the other smart thing, I guess one could say, that I did was in the year 2015. That was my third go around for all of these exams. I just widened my scope, and I took a lot more exams. Like, I took the MyCat in 2015. I took NMAT as well, I think, for the first time in 2015, and a few other examinations. What that does is it really gives you that cushion, or that really gives you those fallback options in case of one thing not working out, because all of these IIMs or even FMS, actually, for that matter, would be judging you on the performance of one day. Now that seems a little harsh, and someone who's taken the JE as well, I can tell you that it is a really unfair situation. So it would be sensible for you to take more exams and then decide later on, because what happens is we get a little too emotional, we get a little too egoistical, and think that okay, this one exam is just going to make sure that everything is sorted, but that more often than not is not the situation. uh, you need to sort of have multiple options, and then obviously have the luxury of turning down options later on, rather than being constrained with not having options at all. So that was uh, that was my 2015 test taking experience. A thing that I would like to highlight actually here is the MICA exam is very different than any of these other examinations. And if you guys have any specific questions regarding that, or even like say the NMAT or XAT, or even CAT for that matter, obviously, I'd be happy to take that. So with that, guys, I'd like to open the floor for questions. You can use the chat option here and sort of put in your questions, and I'd be happy to take that up and we can discuss them for the remainder of the webinar. Kunal, hi. I did take the GMAT in the year 2013, 2014. My score was around 720, and at the time it was just something that I wanted to take because studying after you've graduated, or studying while you're working, I thought at the time was going to be a really tricky thing to do. So I took the GMAT. I didn't really have a college as such that I was aiming at, um, and because GMAT the score validity is about 5 years, so yeah, I just thought it would make sense to just take it in a go. Uh, Personally, I think if you want to do MBA in India, then the GMAT is uh, not that important for you to take. Uh, the one college, I think there are a couple of colleges that really do give importance to GMAT. One is obviously ISB, Indian School of Business, and the second one is SP Jain. These two colleges do accept GMAT scores, but they also have another round of profile-based shortlisting and interviews, etc., etc. That would sort of define uh, whether or not you get an admit. So in that sense, I don't really think it's because again, right? Like let's be honest, the exam fee for GMAT is going to be equal to the exam fees of 7 to 8 other MBA entrance exams put together. So in that sense, I would definitely say it's not worth taking, definitely compared to the other 7 to 8 exams. But if you are very clear about why you want to take it, or if the ISB or SP Jain colleges are the target colleges that you have, then taking it makes sense. Or if you again like if you want to go outside of India and pursue your B school education, then GMAT is obviously mandatory. Uh, but otherwise, I would not really recommend it. So Kunal, it's not. Uh, I'll, again, I'll be very honest. I was studying with the University of Mumbai, and don't worry, Kunal. Even my undergraduate scores were very low, right? So what that does is it will take some colleges out of the conversation because historically these colleges value undergraduate scores as well. They value impeccable academic records because that's the sort of people that they want in their course. So it's going to affect your chances for a certain colleges. Having said that, the other colleges are still open. The other colleges will still give a lot of emphasis on the entrance exams. Now, I know for a fact that IIM Calcutta and FMS are two of those colleges that put a lot of emphasis uh, on your CAT scores. So you can definitely make sure that you prepare for the exam really well and ensure that the places that to which you have your to which you stand a good chance, those places don't unfairly judge you because of your lesser undergraduate score. So Kunal, don't worry about that. Plenty of other colleges not that will not affect your chances. Yes, ISB does consider CGPA, but again, like I said, it's a more profile-based shortlisting. Uh, Hamsika, for part-time and executive MBA courses, um, there are a lot of colleges that are currently coming up with uh, with these part-time or executive MBA course options. I haven't really uh, seen a lot of people gain the the desired benefits out of a part-time or an executive MBA course. Uh, Maybe there are benefits, but in my personal opinion, I haven't seen individuals gain or benefit a lot from part-time or executive MBA courses. So I wouldn't really know if it's a good idea. But either ways, we can connect separately, and I can probably do some research and get back to you for which are the good options. Are the standard list of top 10, top 20 MBA colleges for full-time MBA? Are they also the top 10, top 20 colleges for part-time or executive MBAs? Like that's something that I'll have to look into. So we can connect offline, or we can I can get back to you for this. This is a very interesting question, and I'm sure a lot of MBA aspirants have this in their mind. Uh, Looking back, I can definitely think that um, having some work experience is helps you in your post MBA life a bit more, and also it helps you during your MBA as well, because there are companies or on-campus placement opportunities that would come specifically for people who have a certain amount of work experience. Freshers as such, who don't really have uh, any work experience, would be therefore not eligible for uh, for these uh, these opportunities. So not only would a pre-MBA work experience help you in getting more opportunities on campus for placements, but it would also help you with what your goals are in life, because it's a fair thing to say that even before an MBA or even after an MBA, you would be working, all of your work experience would be a corporate work experience. So to understand what um, corporate life is, and to understand that A to B transition that I spoke about, where you are currently and where you want to go, your work experience is going to help you. To touch upon this a little further, a lot of colleges give you extra points for having work experience, so your composite score gets a little stronger. However, having said that, you need to be very smart about how you go about preparing for any of the uh, entrance tests that we spoke about earlier. Working long hours is going to be a typical situation for a lot of people uh, in a post undergraduation work uh, workplace. But you would then need to carve out time from weekends. You need to carve out time after work or before work to just give time or to really take those mock tests or practice tests and get better at attempting them. So that's my suggestion. Uh, I'm slightly inclined towards the side of having work experience before going for an MBA. I can talk about one thing that I sort of mentioned that I didn't mention was my actual CAT 2015 experience, and that's a little interesting. So I just like put it out there. You guys can like use the chat and leave your questions there. I will definitely come back to them. Um, this was the point, right? Like the pro tip that I mentioned um, is. I just like to give you an example. I had a very difficult LRDI set that that came to that came to my CAT 2015, and basically a set LRDI typical set consists of one main question, and then you have five sub questions that you have to sort of attempt. Now, I was quite confident after quant that I would probably score well there. But when it came to LRDI, I was sort of sure that this would be the make or break section. So what I did was, in a very tricky logical reasoning set, I used the options of two questions, the option sets of two questions, to figure out what the answers would be. And typically, the situation, I'm obviously simplifying this, was that question one was asking which of these following could be the possible rate, and the question two was which of the following could be a possible volume. And the fun thing was the revenue number was given in the main data set. So what I basically had to do was look at all the rate options, look at all the volume options, and figure out just by simple multiplication of these pairs, which of the pair was actually matching with the revenue number given in the main data set. So that was like I was slightly proud about myself for using this sort of lateral thinking, if you may, because I didn't actually solve the question which asked me to find out the rate. I didn't even solve the question which asked me to find out the volume. I just figured out which of the multiplications would give me the right revenue number, and that's how I cracked that set. And I think that also played a part in me getting better scores in 2015. Another thing that sort of helped me was my verbal section wasn't that great to start off with. And I sort of realized that I was wasting too much of time on parajumbles and just not getting my reading comprehension strategy correct. So I just did the simple thing, like a lot of these simulated test packages, if you take it from IMS, if you take it from Time, they will also give you these sectional tests, which will be like 30-minute exams or 30-minute tests where you can only take reading comprehension questions or only take questions from permutations and combinations or something like that. So I made my topic related prep about taking these 30-minute tests instead of just sitting in front of a textbook and a notebook and solving 30 questions. Uh, I realized that it wasn't helping me. Not only was I getting distracted, but I always had the liberty of time, because and I wasn't even tracking it, right? Like I was saying that, okay, fine, if I finish these 30 questions in today's time, I've done my quota of studies. So that was something that I sort of tweaked in my last attempt, and got better at taking the exam and just making sure that my practice matched the target exam that I was hoping to crack. So I just wanted to share that experience. Alright, guys. So I guess we'll wrap this up. Just another random tip: be very careful when you're filling up the entrance exam forms for all of these examinations. Because in my CAT 2015, I filled out the test center preferences as Mumbai, Thane, and Nagpur. And somehow, because of I don't know what reason, they assigned Nagpur as the test center for me, where I could have actually selected Navi Mumbai or Pune actually, which were much closer. So be a little careful about all of these things. I think a lot of the some more forms I think will be opening up. So be careful for all of those last dates. Don't miss out on any of them. And all the very best for your journey. I would really urge you to think about, if not anything else, just really think about uh, why you want to do this MBA piece, and how it's going to help you, how is it going to change your lives from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. And I think the rest of it is something that we can easily look at later on. So thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out and attending this webinar organized by Chase. Hope to see you guys in any of the mentoring sessions in the future. And as always, just keep a clear mind, keep an open mind, and keep working out. Thank you. Goodbye.